The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hi, and welcome to Open BXRX Tuesday, a weekly program providing you the latest information, resources, services, and community efforts taking place locally here in the Bronx and virtually. I'm your host, Sonyi Lopez, and today is Tuesday, June 29th. Coming up, we'll discuss asthma and managing the condition with a new edition of Empire's Whole Health Report. Then, the Fresh Air Fund is ready to invite Bronx children and families to enjoy free summer programming. Tune in to find out more. After that, we'll learn about Public Health America, a brand new show on BronxNet promoting health and social justice. And The Urban Wild invites us to learn about agricultural technology through their free training programs. So please, stick around. Open BXRX Tuesday starts now. Welcome to Open BXRX Tuesday on BronxNet. I'm your host, Sonyi Lopez, and I'd like to invite you to get social with us at BronxNet TV on Instagram and Twitter, and BronxNet Community Television on Facebook. This week, the Whole Health Report, sponsored by Empire Blue Cross Blue Shield, is back. Today, we have a new guest from Empire, Laura Brosen. Laura is a registered nurse and a clinical quality program director for Empire. Our special guest today is no stranger to BronxNet. Dr. Denise Nunez specializes in pediatric critical care at Montefiore. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Wonderful having you both. Today, we are discussing a chronic condition that disproportionately affects people in the Bronx. That chronic condition is asthma. Laura, can you help us set the stage for our discussion on asthma today?
Yes, Sonyi, as you said, this is a really important topic. Asthma has a significant impact on health of those in the Bronx. The Bronx has the highest incidence of asthma and the highest hospitalization rate for children, not only just in the 5 boroughs, but actually the highest rate of hospitalization in all of New York State. We know that the Bronx has been called Asthma Alley because of the environmental factors that can trigger asthma attacks. And as we consider our mission at Empire to materially and measurably improve the health of the communities we serve, we hope to give some information and resources today to help those better manage their condition.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Laura. And this is why we appreciate this partnership with Empire Blue Cross Blue Shield to get this information out there for our viewers. Dr. Nunez, Laura mentioned that the Bronx has the highest incidence of asthma. Why is there so much asthma in the Bronx and in our borough? Can you help us understand this?
Absolutely. So just to recap a little bit, so asthma is a chronic long-term disease of the lungs that causes the airway to get inflamed and narrow and make it very difficult to breathe. This disease requires a long-term follow-up and treatments. The exact cause of asthma is unknown, but one thing we do know is what triggers an asthma attack. And the Bronx is number one in each and one of these triggers, like 1, poor quality of air from pollution. So the Bronx has some of the highest, poorest air quality in the city. The second trigger is poverty. The Bronx is the poorest county in the United States with the worst housing conditions, exposing our patients to high rate of allergens like particles like cockroaches, mice, dust, mold, etc. The other condition is also if you have another medical condition that triggers having asthma, and obesity it's very prevalent, it's very high. We have a high incidence of obesity in our children and adults in New York, and most of our patients are obese, have asthma. So, the Bronx just kind of becomes that perfect place to have asthma, which is sad, but it's true.
Very sad. And I can only imagine that, the pandemic, COVID-19 has exacerbated that, right, doctor? If you can just add a little bit on that.
Absolutely. Not only that, also, not only it exacerbated that, but exacerbated how how bad we treat our asthma, how a lot of our patients were not able to get access to care. And the kids were at home and they were having severe attacks. The parents were very afraid to go to the ER and have our patients treated. So thankfully, with some telehealth that helped us, and education helped us tell parents what they needed to do and send the medications to the pharmacy to make sure that patients had the medication at the right time.
Absolutely. I think, highlighting preventative care is super important. And that's why we appreciate having this relationship as well with our doctors in our community. Absolutely. I wanted to focus also a little more on the specific environmental factors that contribute to asthma. Laura did mention that, where I live here in the Bronx in Mount Haven, there's a place called Asthma Alley because it has some of the worst air pollution levels in the US. Can you help us understand exactly what those air pollutants are and, define health disparities in the Bronx?
So you know what happens? So we breathe at least, let's say, if you're an adult, you breathe about 12 times in a minute. And if you're a pediatric patient, you breathe about 60, right? So anywhere from 60 to 12 or 12 to 60. And every time you take a breath, you take about 8 ounces of air. And that air has oxygen, nitrogen oxide, has carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. So a whole bunch of substances plus particles. And these particles, the ones that are the smallest ones, are the ones can go deeper into our lungs. And these are about 3 to 5 microns. And what happens is that all these particles that we have from the traffic, from dust, from pollen, all these particles are very tiny, only 2.5 in diameter. So they go all the way into our lungs and they produce this inflammation, this irritation in your lungs. And what does the lungs do? They actually close. Why? You don't want all these substances coming in or these particles coming into your lungs. And that's like a compensatory mechanism that the lungs have. And that triggers asthma. And what happens with our Bronx population is because we live in this land of with all these air pollutions, with all these allergens, we don't have a place. The kids don't have a place to go and play. They don't have these clean parks. You go out of your house and you have the streets right there. You have the highways right on top. You have the train on top of you. So this helps for us to have an unsafe environment for our families that live here in the Bronx.
Oh, thank you for breaking that down, doctor. So, for someone who's not aware, what are the symptoms that we should look out for when it comes to asthma?
Definitely. So different symptoms can be from mild to very severe, starting with even just having like a little sore throat or some runny nose, going into coughing and chest pain and difficulty breathing. And I always tell my parents that you have to be aware of these symptoms because sometimes it just starts with a little simple cough, especially with older kids, the teenagers. They're really hard to treat, right? They're really strong. Sometimes they don't want to follow, orders and things like that. And the bad things with the teenagers that actually collapse very easy. They tend to be like, okay, until they're not okay. So they go from coughing a little bit until they collapse because they can't breathe. So knowing little triggers of your kids, when you hear them cough a little bit or something in their throat or having a little bit of difficulty breathing or breathing a little bit fast is very important to know. And right away, either use your inhaler or call your pediatrician and let them know that something is happening to your son or daughter.
So, doctor, you did mention using an inhaler. What are some other asthma treatments that we should be familiar with?
So I think one of the most important things is that first, you definitely have to have a pediatrician and you have to have, or a doctor that takes care of asthma and have a frequent follow-ups with your pediatrician or with your doctor. Second of all, you can use rescue inhalers that you can use that when you have an active asthma attack, when you feel you can't breathe. You can also use long-term inhalers, which are medications that stabilize your cells called mast cells. Those mast cells are like little cells in your body that when they get in contact with the allergen, they break and they release something called histamine. And that actually is what makes you have this trigger and inflame and kind of close your airways. So you have those three things. One of the other things that we have also here in New York, you have the New York Health Neighborhood Program, which actually goes to your home for free and checks to see what triggers you have at home and educates you in these triggers. So it's very important to follow. First thing, as I always say, is just make sure you follow with the pediatrician, and your pediatrician can give you a referral for that.
Right. Thank you for that, doctor. And as we mentioned, preventative care is number one here when it comes to, asthma and any chronic condition you have, really. What happens if asthma is not treated properly?
So if you don't treat asthma properly, your lungs can suffer a lot to the point that they can fibrose, and you can actually have very bad consequences from that, and you can even die. So that's why it's very, very important that you treat your asthma the right way, and try to minimize the asthma attacks so your lungs don't suffer. Every time you have an attack, your lungs, it's like you hit your lungs a little when you hit them harder and harder and harder, and your lungs get stiffer and stiffer and stiffer. So you have to be careful with that.
Got it. And doctor, also on the same basis of preventative care, are there any activities that asthma patients should stay away from? Is there anything that asthma patients should not do?
I know a lot of people actually ask me about like swimming. Can we swim? Can we play any sports? And actually swimming is very good for patients with asthma. What's important is that where are you located, and make sure you're taking good quality air inside of you, and that you are well controlled with your medications and you're in touch with your pediatrician. You can do any sports. There's like exercise-induced asthma. So they will train you, they'll educate you. You have to be educated about what asthma is and how and what triggers your asthma, and your doctor will help you with that. So it's important that you keep that tight relationship with your doctor. Every time you go to your doctor, they will do like what's called an asthma action plan, where they will tell you, look, you need to use this when you're coughing and you feel tight. This is what you need to use all the time. And they make a plan for you. So it's always good to come to your pediatrician every certain amount of times, every 3 months, and make sure you review your asthma action plan and see how many times you've had an asthma attack, just in case we need to modify your medications.
I think I can safely say that I believe that everyone knows someone with asthma, especially living in the borough of the Bronx. I have various friends who suffer from asthma and sometimes forget their inhalers, and or they misplace it and they have to look for it. So we always have to remind each other, just remember your inhaler, be careful with the way you run, and just take your time, breathe. So thank you, doctor, for these reminders. And before we go, Laura and Dr. Nunez, just provide us with any resources that there are out there for our viewers and asthma patients and anyone who would like to know more information.
Sure, Sonyi. So there's some great resources. Montefiore has a center right here in the Bronx for children and adults. The American Academy of Pediatrics is a good resource. The Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America and EmpireBlue.com has information that you can use as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you, Dr. Nunez, for your time today. And thank you for sharing all this wealth of information and knowledge for our Bronxites.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
This has been the Empire Whole Health Report on managing asthma. We'll be right back here on Open BXRX Tuesday.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scales of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting to the new reality.
Reporting from Brosen, this is Trans.
Welcome back. The Fresh Air Fund is ready to invite Bronx children and families to enjoy free summer programming across the borough starting next week. Joining us now to share upcoming events and more is Fatima Shama, Executive Director of the Fresh Air Fund. Welcome, Fatima. It's so nice to have you back on the show.
It's so great to be back, Sonia. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So to start, for the past 145 years, the fund has been committed to our children and families through trying times. Can you share more about why it's important to upkeep your mission in supporting our children despite the challenges?
So I'll tell you, the organization was started in 1877 through a health crisis, through the tuberculosis pandemic. And so imagine we've just lived through another pandemic. And then, the tuberculosis crisis was affecting young people's lungs. And the idea was they should get fresh air to cleanse their lungs. And here we are, a year after COVID, and knowing the power and the importance we know after being inside for so long of being outside and kids being able to play and kids being able to have fun. And most importantly, I think for children, they've been disconnected in some ways from school. They've been learning virtually. They've been doing all these things virtually. So our mission has been to connect children to the outdoors so that they can be children, so that they can play, so that they can have fun, so that they can experience those things that, especially in the summer, are like, you look forward to it, right? And so this year we're back again with a commitment to making sure kids can have fun, they can learn, they can grow, and they can be outside safely.
I love it, and so happy to have you back this year for our children. You did mention, Fatima, something that I wanted to emphasize. We had a doctor come on earlier today on this show to talk about asthma in the Bronx and how high chronic asthma rates are and how important green spaces are for children. So if you can just emphasize on that, important aspect, and the fact that we have the most green spaces here in our community is, I think, an incredible thing to have, access for our children.
So, last year, the traditional programming of the Fresh Air Fund has been to connect children to programming outside of New York, right? So we own and operate 6 camps, 1 camp specifically for children from the Bronx, Camp Junior, which we've talked about before. But we have 6 camps. So we believe in the importance, as your guest said earlier, on the health realities of children being able to breathe clean air. Mm-hmm. But we have clean air in our city. We have clean air in the Bronx, right? The truth is, last summer, we canceled all of those traditional programs. And we were like, we have to do something for kids. Let's create spaces for them to come outside and play safely in our own communities so that they are outside, that we're actually in some ways reclaiming the open space that we have, the green space that we have for our children to be children. And so we're going to do that again this year. We're going to be in the Bronx, playing in the communities. We're going to be in Pelham Bay Park, providing opportunities for our kids to connect to science and the environment and sports. But so we brought it a bit more local last year and this year again.
I love it. It is certainly true, Fatima, that our kids in the Bronx have been through so much this past year. Can you share how the Fresh Air Fund and the families you serve have become affected throughout the pandemic and throughout the year, and how you continue to support and engage with these families despite the challenges?
Yeah, thank you so much. So it's been a hard year, right? It's been a hard year on so many levels. And for us at the Fresh Air Fund, we commit to serving children and families in the communities where we know a partnership with the Fresh Air Fund is something that could be helpful and useful to a family or to a parent. So we're working in neighborhoods where we have a great presence in the Bronx and in neighborhoods in Queens and in Brooklyn. And those neighborhoods were the ones that were most affected through this pandemic, whether it was economically, the impact of the economic crisis we've just been through, or the pandemic, or disconnecting from school in some way, or the lack of broadband. And so for us, we have called every family we work with to check in on them. We've been able to do emergency cash grants. Last year, we were able to provide summer experiences, which was incredible. We're so proud of all of our partners, and I want to just give a shout out to the Bronx Borough President's Office and to several electeds in the Bronx who were such partners with us, and community-based partners. But also, we were able to do a bunch of year-round programming for kids. We've run book clubs year-round. We've been doing virtual talent shows. We've been able to have a parent workshop where parents themselves have a place to come. So it has been super powerful. And all of that really was born out of listening to our parents and our families to hear what they needed, and then to be able to step in. So We know that literacy matters. We know that engagement matters. And so more than anything, we wanted to give that to our children. Every child has needed a place of like an exhale, right? We've all needed an exhale. Now the summer is here and we want to go outside and exhale. And so that's the next thing we're really preparing for.
Yes, and speaking of that, your upcoming Summer Spaces 2021 is starting next week. You're kicking off across the boroughs. We want to talk about here in the Bronx. So can you just tell us about, how you're gearing up for summer programming? And it's all free, right, Fatima?
Everything we do is free. And I have to say thank you to all of the people who send us money, corporations who support us, or foundations, but it's individuals, I have to tell you, or go online and make a check or donate. But everything we do is free. And so this summer, we're going to be on streets across the city. Again, you'll see some of the programming we did last year, but we popped up play spaces in last year, 2 neighborhoods. This year, we're doing it in 3 neighborhoods in the Bronx. And that kicks off on July 6th. We have many slots for families and children to sign up. We hire locally, so we're super proud of that. The 3 neighborhoods that we're in this summer are in Mount Eden, where on the Grand Concourse next to Walton Avenue. So, if you're in that neighborhood, we're going to be right there playing every day, Monday through Thursday. You can play in the morning or play in the afternoon. We're going to be in Soundview, right by on Stickball Boulevard between Seward and Randall. And in Mott Haven, we're going to be on 144th Street between Jackson and Concord. And so there's lots of open spaces. You can sign up for a week. You can sign up for, we're there from July 6th to August 20th. But July 6th, that's it. We're going to pop up with color and with hula hoops and jump ropes and balls and green shirts, green fresh air shirts. We're going to see young people, but we're there to play. We're there to create safe spaces for a parent to trust us, but really for children to be children, to be in a safe space.
Wow, just seeing those clips and those images, I got goosebumps. Just seeing the kids just enjoying themselves in fresh air in our community. It's just a beautiful thing. And this is why I appreciate what you continue to do with the Fresh Air Fund, Fatima. And it's always a great joy to have you here. I'll be there. I know it's for all ages, so I'm going to be there. I'm going to be doing my hula hoop trick with my neck. Fatima, something else I wanted to bring up is that our youth also felt the brunt of budget cuts and the lack of summer employment opportunities. You did mention that through this programming, Fresh Air Fund will be providing opportunities for our older young adults as well. Can you share more about this?
Yeah, we saw this affect us or affect our young people last year when summer youth employment was on the cutting block and we weren't sure what was going to happen. And we were like, you know what, we're going to go into communities. Let's hire counselors and coaches from our communities, because there's something really powerful about not just investing in our communities, but really investing in our young people in our communities. That's the history of this organization. And we're doing the same thing again this year. We're still hiring. So if you're a young person, 18 and older, and you're looking for something to do this summer, we are still hiring because we're hiring upwards of 300 people, including, and we have 17-year-olds who will be part of an internship program. But freshair.org, you can sign up to participate in the program. You can look into working with us. You can make a donation. You can learn more about who we are and what we do. But young people in our community being a part of the change, being the role models for the younger kids, that's how we create change in our communities. And actually, more than anything, a young person who may not have ever worked with a young person or might have and think like, oh, I love this. I enjoy working. There's so many careers, whether you choose to go into education or you choose to go into being a coach or you choose to go into working in a healthcare facility with children. Like, there's so many options. And these are the kinds of jobs that get you on that path. And we love being a part of that.
That is very true. And I love that. Thank you for sharing, Fatima. In addition to in-person events, you also offer a virtual experience called Fresh Air Everywhere. What can participants do there and how do they sign up? Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, so Fresh Air Everywhere is for children ages 7 to 12. And basically, it's camp, but online. So we know that some parents are comfortable having kids play outside. Some parents are ready for kids to be outside, but we have heard from some parents that they're not ready, or so that some children aren't ready. And also people need options, right? So we know that playing outside is an option, but we also knew that maybe being inside is an option too, or maybe doing both. So Fresh Air Everywhere is basically 3 hours of camp in the morning, where we will send you a box full of fun things. and you'll have counselors take you through with a focus on nature and connecting you to the outdoors. So it's doing a scavenger hunt in your neighborhood. It's planting a seed. We have a farm at our fresh air camps. So we take you to the farm virtually every day. So you get to see the rabbits and the chickens and the cow and the sheep. And so you get to create that relationship. And then of course you're in a group with other children your age. So you're now making friends with kids across the city. So that's Fresh Air Everywhere. And we also have spots available for Fresh Air Everywhere. In particular, I think we have lots of options for August, but sign up. You can see, please go online, sign up, call our office. Our team is bilingual, multilingual, and ready to help. And I'll also just say that Summer Spaces is for children ages 5 to 12. And so we're welcoming kids as young as 5 to the program to play. And so you and I will be there with them jumping on July 6th.
Yes, we will be. And Fatima, I wanted to also share that, as we know, Junior just made 3 years, since the fatal accident or what happened to him tragically in our community 3 years ago. Junior Alessandro, Junior Guzman Feliz. Fresh Air Fun opened up a wonderful camp in his honor and in his name called Camp Junior. I understand that these camps are currently not open. Fatima, can you just share, just the importance of keeping his legacy alive in the community, creating this safe space for Bronxites and for Bronx children to feel safe in camp, and when people can expect to enjoy that camp in the future.
So we actually have actually been programming at Camp Junior, but we've been doing it with families. So we know that because we were unable to serve kids in the traditional way, we were like, we have the property and we have the space. Let's have families come out and do a family camping program. And so at Camp Junior last year and this year, we've been doing day trips for families to come up and spend the day. So they're kayaking and they're fishing and they're doing arts and crafts and they're just enjoying the beauty of Camp Junior and learning more about Junior. But it's actually keeping that commitment, as many of us know and have had the amazing honor of meeting Junior's mom. She has been a force and a partner with us. But her love and celebration with her child is something we're continuing to celebrate. So this year, again, we'll be doing family programming at Camp Junior. That's specific, though, to families who've been part of the Fresh Air Fund. So it's not necessarily open to new families because we have a lot of Bronx families who have been family members. And so we'll be doing day trips at Camp Junior again this year. But next summer, we plan to open up traditional again. And we'll be having our programming for our young people from the Bronx at Camp Junior. We've been able to renovate the other half. So we have a lot of space to serve young people. So next year we'll be doing 9 years old to 14 boys and girls. So for next summer, we're all going to go to camp and we're all going to be able to enjoy the beauty of Camp Junior.
Thank you so much, Fatima, for your time today. It's always wonderful having you on the show. We can't wait to see you at Summer Spaces starting next week, Tuesday, July 6th to Thursday, July 9th. Again, you can find all the kids having fun at Mont Haven in Jackson Avenue between 144th and 145th Street, Soundview at Stickball Boulevard from Seward Avenue to Randall Avenue, and Mount Eden at Rockwood Street from Grand Concourse to Walton Avenue. Follow at Fresh Air Fun on social media. Go on freshair.org and call them at 1-800-367-0003 for more information. We'll be right back here on Open BXRX Tuesday. If you're struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311. That's 833-511-0311. Welcome back. Public Health America is a brand new show on BronxNet seeking to promote health and social justice through discussions with national health experts. Here to share more about the program is Dr. William Latimer, Bill, Vice President of Mercy College Bronx Campus and host of Public Health America. Welcome, Bill. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Sonyi, my absolute pleasure to be here. Let me just kick it off by saying it is such a thrill to be a part of the BronxNet team. What BronxNet does for the Bronx and NYC and beyond cannot truly be measured. It's a great, great channel, and it's a real pleasure to be a part of that community.
It's been a pleasure working with you, Bill, and premiering your show, and we're so excited to have it premiere this evening. So we're here to talk about Public Health America. Can you tell us more about your show and your mission with this program?
Sure, happy to do so. Here's the single most important message, and that is we at Mercy College and we, the collective academia of the United States of America, want to get more young people, single moms and dads, veterans, and folks to go to college. Because at the end of the day, there is now decades of data to demonstrate getting a high school degree is great, and it's something that should be absolutely celebrated. But when you get an undergraduate degree and then progress through higher education, it increases your earnings, your access to healthcare, access to a job you love as opposed to just a job. And I want to get more young people in the Bronx to go to college, hard stop. That's the goal. There are other goals, but that's the main goal.
Right. I think it's a wonderful goal to have, especially, engaging our Bronx youth here, right, Bill? And you have so many different experts that you can pull from as the VP of Mercy College. Why is it so important for you to highlight not just the medical journeys of professionals, but their personal journeys with a program like Public Health America?
Sure. That's a great question, Sonyi. Thank you. I mean, here's the thing. Even when I finished my academic degrees and got my doctorate, I remember going to conferences and meeting academics that were senior to me and just being very intimidated, not in a bad way, just like, wow, I could never do what they do. And what I learned over time is what we all learn as we age, which is they're all human beings. They've gone through challenges. Many of them have immigrated from other countries. Many of them were born in the Bronx and made their way up through public education and then went to college and then had careers. And so really part of what I want to do is just to put a human face on these really wonderful and smart people from a wide variety of walks of life, including academia, and let folks know in the Bronx and other places, they're not really any different, or even if there are differences, and that's fine, I respect that. I'm just saying that they faced challenges and then college enabled them to move to another level. And that's what I want young people in the Bronx to do.
Right. Without giving too much away for your premiere episode this evening, can you tell us about your guest and what viewers should expect to learn with this first episode?
Sure. So our first guest will be Dr. Anna Burstein from NYU Langone Medical Center. She is an absolute expert on the COVID pandemic. She's going to give some updated information about where things stand today, going to talk about vaccine safety, going to talk about how mathematical models influence policy, but she's also going to talk about her own journey of having immigrated to the United States from the Ukraine after Chernobyl, landing in San Francisco, and again, working her way up from pretty much nothing by virtue of going to college and working hard. I think she's going to be a lovely guest, and there'll be many other guests that were born and raised in the Bronx and born and raised across the United States that have equally compelling stories.
I think it's an incredible concept for a program, and I can't wait for viewers to tune in to the first episode and continue to tune in weekly on Tuesday evenings. I will say, not just because I'm working on the show myself, but these stories are so compelling. There's something that, when you walk into a doctor's office, you see a white coat, but you don't see the person beyond it. You don't know, how they got where they came from, etc. So Public Health America allows us to open that door and learn more about our experts here in the Bronx. Bill, I'm curious to know what your journey into medicine was like. Can you share a little bit with us?
Sure, I'm happy to do so. Really, if you look at my family over 3 generations, a paternal grandmother that immigrated from Lebanon and then ran a corner store in Schenectady, New York for Poughkeepsie, and then Schenectady, New York for 50 years. And I worked in that store when I was a kid in the 60s and the 70s. Really, they made sure that their children, my parents, went to college because they knew that that would be their ticket to a lifelong profession and lifelong learning. My mom was a public school teacher for 46 years in upstate New York in Shenandoah Public Schools. My dad went to college on the GI Bill after serving in Korea. And again, they made sure that me and my 4 siblings went to college. I think the main thing that they did that their parents didn't have to do is that they also made sure that we did study abroad, because they knew that if we went to another country, that would also completely expand our horizons, and it did. So the bottom line is that higher education across 3 generations of my family made a lot of really wonderful things possible. I love my job. I have my whole life. And it's given me the opportunity to work with amazing people like I do now at Mercy College, which is an incredible private college that provides a lot of really great services to students at a very affordable price. And I would not be able to do that had I not gone on that journey.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Bill. As the VP of Mercy College, how have your students impacted and inspired you, not only with this program, but in life?
Sure. It's amazing. I was just moderating a roundtable with Education Secretary Cardona, Congressman Bowman, and several other noteworthy guests. It was just the students just shone, and it was just amazing. I learn every day that these incredibly intelligent, gifted, and poised individuals are also experiencing enormous stress. Some have experienced very real traumas, the death of family members due to COVID, or other very, very difficult things. And yet they are finding ways to get through the day and move to the next level of their own careers. So, the bottom line, here's the thing. I spent 11 years at Johns Hopkins University, which is a pretty good institution, and it was an honor and a privilege to be there. But really, at the end of the day, the journey that I made to Lehman College, to the College of New Rochelle, and now at Mercy College, 3 Hispanic serving institutions that serve largely first-generation college students that are the first in their families to go to college and graduate. The transformational impact of higher ed is shown best at those institutions. And that's where I want it to be and where I feel I can have the greatest impact.
Wonderful story. Thank you, Doc. What do you hope that our Bronx youth will take away from watching Public Health America? And if you can just share, some of those challenges that you discuss with some of the experts as well, so that in case someone that's viewing may relate to the situation of many of the experts that are now medical professionals.
Sure. I think the main message is go to college. Do what it takes. Don't assume for 1 second that it's not for you. It is for you. You can do it and you can make it. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm saying do it. Reach out. Talk to the admissions staff. Talk to the people at various colleges, including Mercy, and you will learn that there are ways to make it happen. I think in terms of the guests, Sonyi, there's lots of lessons. I think the importance of a supportive parent or supportive parents. I think a supportive mentor that nurtures you in your career when you go to college is critically important. I think having a passion, Anna talked about math and science. She talked about how she was passionate about math and science and that she wasn't going to let anyone stand in her way to get to the next level in terms of learning what she had to learn in order to get to her goal. So find out what your passion is and pursue it. If it's the arts, if it's humanities, if it's social and behavioral science, if it's medicine, all good. Don't let anybody tell you that that isn't a legitimate passion, because I'm telling you right now, it is.
Thank you for that beautiful message, Bill. And without further ado, how can people tune into Public Health America? Please share the premiere date, time, and the channels that we can watch it on.
My pleasure. So June 29th, Tuesday, 7 p.m. on BronxNet. Also, Optimum Channel 67 and FiOS 2133 will be our kickoff. We'd love to have you join us, and we'd love to have you stay in touch.
Thank you so much, Bill, for your time today. Please tune in to Public Health America tonight, Tuesday, June 29th at 7 p.m. If you don't have cable, you can also tune in at bronxnet.tv online. We'll be right back here on Open BXRX Tuesday. Welcome back. Described as a food desert, the Bronx has one of the highest rates of food insecurity in the country. In order to address this systemic issue in our community, the Urban Wild seeks to change food for good through agricultural technology and more. Joining us now to share more is Samia Lemfadli, CEO and founder of the Urban Wild. Welcome, Samia. It's so nice to have you back on BronxNet.
Hi, it's really great to be back. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're happy to have you to, discuss your initiative with the Urban Wild. So for those who are not familiar, can you tell us more about it and your mission?
Absolutely. So our mission, like we mentioned, is to change food for good. Our goal is really to make sustainable agricultural technologies more accessible to communities affected by food insecurity. How we're doing that is by fostering the next generation of urban farmers who will use technology to meet the food production demands of the future. So we provide free workforce development training. We provide free educational programming to young adults through schools and colleges. We then pipeline our alumni into job placements through our internships or through our employer partner network. And during the time of our job training course, we actually build out full-scale sustainable smart farms within community gardens, schools, things like that, so that we can have more accessible food systems within our community.
This sounds amazing. Thank you, Samia, for breaking that down for us. And for folks who may not be familiar, what exactly is agricultural technology, aka ag tech?
Yeah, so it's basically kind of the intersection of technology used specifically to advance agriculture or food systems. So this can look like just plain old technology in all honesty, but it's specifically applied to agriculture in our case. How we use agricultural technology oftentimes is to monitor the health of things using sensors, hardware systems that work in conjunction with applications. So we actually built our own tech product that we use with our students to give them a kind of introduction to what agricultural technology is and what it can do for our communities. So that's kind of the premier product Plotbot that we use with our students so that they can get tapped into that specific field. But there's multiple applications for agricultural technology, from drones to sensors to digital design mapping, things like that. So there's a lot of options on how to use technology to advance food systems. They're just often not really that available to community food systems. And so we're trying to make that accessible, affordable, and realized for our community specifically.
Thank you for that. And, as I mentioned earlier, the Bronx has experienced food insecurity even before the pandemic, but unfortunately, COVID-19 exacerbated the disparities in our community. How does the Urban Wild seek to find alternative solutions to this huge issue in our communities?
Yeah, exactly like you said. So we want to build an alternative food system altogether. I believe that we're not really focused on the coming challenges that we're going to have within food security in the future. I think a lot of what our food system is based on is consumerism and what can drive our bottom line, our dollar, our profit motive. And so what we look at is how can we build food security systems for communities? How would we build free food systems, embed them within schools, community gardens, CBOs, so that they can own, manage, and run these institutions with the help of the technology solutions that we build, with the help of the students that we train who are subsidized through our internship programming. So that way that these food systems can realistically take on the challenges that we see within our community for food scarcity and food insecurity. And ultimately, I believe that that model can be scaled so that we can have commercial food systems that actually supply folks with food security needs throughout the city and in other areas that are battling food insecurity.
Nice. So you do have some upcoming tech training. It's called Ag Tech Training. Can you share more about what people can learn and who qualifies for this training?
Absolutely. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about Intro to Ag Tech. We created this program as an interdisciplinary training to expose folks to agriculture, technology, and construction skills. So all three of them are needed in order to be able to build out sustainable smart farms using hydroponics, aquaponics, aeroponics. We want to make sure that folks are safe. So all in all, we end up providing about 150 hours of training just on technical skills. We're partnering with a really great institution, Strive New York, to be able to add on 40 hours of career development services and curriculum components. So that way you have the work of two different institutions that are helping you pathway yourself into your career. We're covering the cost of your OSHA 30 certification, which employers are now asking for, even in the agriculture sector. We teach folks on basic skills in coding and programming like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then the fundamentals of how to design, build, and maintain a hydroponic, aquaponic, or aeroponic system. We apply all of these skills in person by building out our sustainable food space within a community garden in the Bronx called El Coqui. So by the end of the summer, we're going to have a full-scale aquaponic farm system designed for food relief in partnership with Mission Helping Hands in the Bronx. And so at the end of this 190 hours of training, you're then eligible for job placement services. We match you to 3 to 6 months of employment through our internship that's paid, working at some of the leading farms and tech organizations and construction companies throughout New York City. And then outside of our internship, we continue matching you to jobs, opportunities, professional development, and support you in your career for up to 2 years. But all of this is designed essentially to expose you to 3 pathways: agriculture, technology, or construction, all 3 of which are growing within the sustainability field, and so that you can decide what career pathway you want to have and have a supportive network to see it through.
Sheesh, mic drop. Like, you have all these opportunities here in our local community, and I'm smiling from ear to ear because I know Mission Helping Hand and El Coqui, and I'm so happy that they're partnering with you to make this happen in our community. So, Samia, when we think about STEM, we often don't see people who look like us. You're a woman of color, the CEO of the Urban Wild, and I'm so proud that someone like you is running and operating this. How does the Urban Wild seek to diversify the STEM field, and why is it so important for you to make this happen, especially for our youth in the Bronx?
It's huge. I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn and I did not have access to a lot of opportunities. I didn't end up getting to go to college or completing college. I had to work right out of the gate, out of high school. So I definitely understand that this kind of industry, non-traditional fields of employment for women, for gender non-binary individuals, for people of color, like STEM, like construction, like agriculture, they're not very often welcoming to folks with backgrounds like ours who come from really diverse backgrounds. And it's super important for multiple reasons. This country was built on the idea of bringing in diversity of thought and bringing in innovation and welcoming folks from all backgrounds so we can bring out the best in everyone and use that to propel ourselves to be a really great nation together. And I feel as though there's been a lot of branding and marketing around being able to bring in and diversify our staffing. But there's not a lot of intention on how to keep staff that are coming from diverse backgrounds and things like that, and how to make sure that we have safe spaces that don't just value their identity, but value their diversity of thought, value their talents, value their innovative thinking. So it's really important that, especially with the challenges that we're facing in the coming years, that we have as much diversity of thought, as much innovative thinking, as much closeness and proximity to some of the issues that we're trying to solve with the stakeholders that are in the room trying to solve it. If you're not familiar with the issue of food insecurity, you may not be the one that can solve it. And that's okay. We want to still bring folks that have the skills to be able to apply other ways. But I think having folks that have lived experience within some of these issues in our community is one of the key needs that we have in terms of innovating new solutions for it.
Yes, who better than us, right?
Yes.
So I also wanted to share with our viewers, I'm sure a lot of people have heard that President Joe Biden's infrastructure plan promises to assist underserved groups by allocating $100 billion in workforce development and growing industries such as clean energy, which we're talking about now, as well as allocating funds to rebuild the country's water infrastructure, for instance. What are your hopes with this plan? What does this mean for the Bronx and your organization as well, the Urban Wild?
I mean, I think it's a big step forward in terms of the narrative and the landscape of opportunities that's out there. I will say we are a young organization, so it's really difficult for young organizations often to tap into federal pathways for funding when it comes to kind of systems change ideology. So we have a few strategies that we work on to be able to address this. The first being that we partner with really great institutions that have long-standing histories like Strive so that we can tap into resources that they're more ready to be able to tap into. So our partnerships are really crucial to us. We're always looking for new partners that can help us get to the next stage. So they've been a really great one to start. Second, we work very closely with various coalitions throughout the Bronx and Brooklyn, and even national coalitions that are positioned specifically to be able to have influence on policy changes, systemic change, implementing some of these workforce strategies for the future. And then third, we've been developing relationships with local elected officials throughout New York City and other spaces so that we can have a better relationship and a better ability to advocate for the needs that we have as an institution. Ultimately, I think that a civilian climate corps is going to happen. And when it does, my hope is that our alumni are able to tap into a government-supported job pipeline that will ensure that their careers can grow in one or more of these fields.
Awesome. And you do have an upcoming information session that you want to share with our viewers. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that, Samia, and how people can register to find out more information?
Not a problem. So Intro to Ag Tech, our third cohort, is being hosted this summer starting July 19th. So if you're interested in the trainings that we've mentioned in agriculture, technology, construction, and their intersections, and want to build out a smart farm space with us this summer, go to our Instagram at Change Food for Good. In the link in our bio, the first link is the registration link for our program. Our info session is being hosted tomorrow at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Again, this program is in partnership with Strive. You'll have a lot of resources, a lot of support to get you through the 10 weeks of training and then get you placed in a job right after. So again, check out our website at Instagram at Change Food for Good, or go to our website, www.changefoodforgood.org, and click the first link that you see. It'll take you straight to our registration, and hit the 30th of June so you can register for our info session.
Sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Samia, for your time today. Before you go, just a quick message, for our youth who wants to get into the agricultural technology field but is not sure how to start. What can you tell our youth just about, getting started?
Yeah. I'll tell you, at least for me, when I got into the field of technology, I had no background, no experience. I want you to know that, one, it is not as complicated and as daunting as it may seem. Even if it's completely foreign to you, I want you to have the confidence to walk into the room and try. That's really the first step, is trying to get yourself exposed to what these skills look like, and really take your personal experience and bring it to this area. So if you have personal experiences where technology can solve a problem, personal experiences where agriculture or construction or the ability to build better solutions can solve that problem, bring that experience into the room.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Samia, for your time today and for sharing more about the Urban Wild. We can't wait to join you tomorrow for the info session on AgTech.
Thank you.
Samia Lemfadli is the CEO and founder of the Urban Wild. Again, you can follow them at Change Food for Good on Instagram and Facebook, the Urban Wild, and visit their website, changefoodforgood.org. Well, that's all for our show today. I'm your host, Sonyi Lopez, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. Stay safe. See you next time.